you so much for coming to my studio. It's always great to have you here. Just talk about art, go over some techniques, and work on a portrait together. So we are working on part 6 of the portrait in airbrush. We're going to do some avant-garde techniques such as using the razor blade, sandpaper, regular paintbrush techniques, and how they can complement the airbrush and working back and forth, which is, to me, very exciting and doing things out of the box. So before we go into the demonstration and part 6 of the portrait in airbrush, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Hitting that subscribe button lets me know that I'm doing a great job. There's also a little bell icon. If you click on that, you'll be alerted to new videos as they come out. So without further ado, let's go ahead to the portrait in airbrush part 6. Very exciting. So right now we're going to go ahead and begin painting some of the green areas of her crown with the custom Micron CM-C+, the very one we repaired a few episodes earlier. I especially like the way the greens of her crown actually echo the background greens. It's very cool compositionally, it wasn't done on purpose. Quick tip, as in anything when working in airbrush, you always want to work on the light side, then go dark. It's a lot easier to go darker than to lighten. So that's a really good tip to keep in mind always when working in airbrush. Remember that mistake I made in episode 2 with the background? So right now I'm taking that very light green and I'm just going to fix it, setting it up to go over with a darker green so you wouldn't even know that mistake is there. Now the introduction of the paintbrush in the painting. I like to use the open line of golden and they are fantastic. They have a complete line of mediums to thin it out, slow the drying process. They work great with the fluid acrylics, which I thin with the airbrush medium. The thing about golden, they have the heavy body acrylics, so you can use these acrylic paints that mix perfectly with all the different varieties of colors to work together to create the best painting for you. At this stage I am basically just laying in the different areas. Right now I'm doing the stems in her crown, and I believe this is so much easier than if I was to try and go over the black of the hair with the airbrush. This is, you can get a little thicker, more opaque, so definitely working with the paintbrush at times in an airbrush painting is a logical decision. Keep in mind that there will be a link in the description field of all the materials that I use. You can just click on them, they will take you to Amazon. I get a small commission, so if you're going to purchase them anyway, I'd appreciate that. With the paintbrush you can work much thicker and it's a lot easier to go over already established areas of color. It's so much easier, so don't be afraid to use the paintbrush in your airbrush paintings. Using that same green from earlier, I'm going to opaquely lay in some of the green areas. When working with the paintbrush, it's a lot easier to create layering, one color over another. So this is definitely an advantage than using just the airbrush. When laying in the white areas of these flowers, do not be afraid to use a bit more paint. Paint a little thicker. It's okay, and it's actually advantageous to get the coverage over an area that already has color. Here you can see I'm going over the lighter green with a darker green. Just continue to create layers, working from light to dark most of the time. However, when you're working with opaque colors, such as with the paintbrush right now, you do have a little bit of flexibility that you don't have with the airbrush. Another reason to use regular paintbrush techniques alongside the airbrush. With the hair color, I'm able to actually redefine the contours, and it's really great to even improve the drawing of the crown. So, like I said, working in layers is perfect with the paintbrush. As I mentioned earlier, I like using the airbrush medium and a little bit of water to thin out the paints. You don't want to use more than, let's say, 10% water, because at this point it will tend to separate the pigment from the acrylic, and that could cause problems. I want you to never be afraid to experiment. Always try new things. You don't necessarily have to experiment on the painting you're working on, but you can do small test panels. That's what I like to do to find new techniques. Contrasts are very important in a work of art, a painting, a photograph. Here I really like how the sort of thicker paint contrasts very nicely with the thinner paint. of the airbrush. Whatever you do, do not throw away your beat up old paintbrushes. I like to use them to dip in some thin paint and create texture, and that's what I'm doing here on the green parts of the crown. Back to one of my good airbrushes, and now I'm basically going to do the flowers and leaves that are on the outside contours of the model's head. These leaves are just lay-ins. And in the future I will be graying them down, maybe creating a highlight or some dark accents. But right now I'm just drawing them out on the surface with the green paint. Remember, there is no rush. It is enough to just slowly build up texture and the different elements of the crown, and just worrying about color accuracy and texture, as I said before. As you can see, the same principle does apply, to keep moving around the painting, and in this case the crown, not staying in one spot, and this way you have a feeling of continuity. Now you can see is going back to the airbrush and working with the strengths of the airbrush to create an image that is more realistic and also works with the paintbrush. As you can see with the airbrush, I'm basically reworking the negative space between the flowers and the leaves and the crown, and being real attentive to the details at this moment. now it's time to go ahead and soften those really hard edges on the outer contours of the hair, and also where the hair meets the dark of the shoulder. You don't want that to be too hard or too lineated. So I just love the custom micron for this, as well as the fact that I can get these incredible fine lines, these little hairs. It's a beautiful thing. Honestly, I'm just so excited the way the airbrush and the paintbrush work together to create an image that has both hard and soft edges and thin applications and thick applications of paint. This is where I really come and pull out the details using razor blades and also a piece of fine sandpaper. I love the fine sandpaper because you get these shimmers of light that I've never seen before in a painting technique. It's something I found out on my own. I just love it. You have to try it, but it has to be on a rough painting surface. So make sure it's not a smooth painting surface when you give this a shot. So I hope you really enjoyed the Portrait and Airbrush Part 6. Part 7 is going to come out next week, so please stay tuned, and if you hit that little bell icon, you'll be alerted of when the video comes out. Don't forget, we do everything from airbrush to pastels and also regular graphite with white pastel. We also do tech gear for artists, and also I'm going to go into motivational ideas and quotes that will help us as artists to keep our confidence, to create and stay on that path of growth. So thanks again for coming by. Like I said, I'm so happy that you came to my studio today, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of days. You take care of yourselves.